Welcome to Advent. This is a season where we are absolutely caught in the middle. All of Advent, you're going to hear us live between these two words from God. Do not be afraid. I am with you. We live our lives between these two promises. Sometimes they feel like empty words, hollowly ringing against our reality. And sometimes they feel like the obvious articulation of our beautiful connection with God in the moment. Advent is a time that asks us and invites us and pushes us to sit with a promise that has not yet come. And I want to tell you right off the bat that this is hard. I certainly do not have all the answers. It's a struggle to hold on to hope that you don't see. It's a struggle to look at the darkness in the world and believe in the light. It's a struggle to be given a vision that hasn't yet come. But it's possible. It's what we're called to do. It's the way we must live our lives, and we can do it together. Our text for today speaks exactly to this Advent paradox, a paradox that you might call faith. So if you would, let's read it together. We're going to be in the book Habakkuk, and I'm going to tell you the page number because it's one of those small prophets all jammed together. So it's going to be page 825 if you want to follow along in your pew Bibles. And I'm actually going to start with the first couple of verses of chapter 1, but then I really want to make sure you join with me on chapter 2, verse 2. So it's right at the top of page 825. This is the oracle that the prophet Habakkuk saw. O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not listen? Or cry to you violence, and you will not save? Why do you make me see wrongdoing and look at trouble? Destruction and violence are before me. Strife and contention arise. So the law becomes slack, and justice never prevails. The wicked surround the righteous, therefore judgment comes forth perverted. Then the Lord answered me and said, write the vision, make it plain on tablets so that a runner may read it. For there is still a vision for the appointed time. It speaks of the end and does not lie. If it seems to tarry, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Look at the proud. Their spirit is not right in them, but the righteous live by their faith. This story has three main elements that I want us to follow today. So first, we're going to talk about Habakkuk's lament. And then we're going to talk about God's vision. And then we'll talk about how we live with hope. So let's dive in. Once again, we're in the prophets, and as I've been doing the last couple weeks, I want to put it in context because it's important to know what was happening. So the book Habakkuk reflects an exceedingly traumatic time in Israel's history. You might be getting the impression that there weren't a lot of rosy times in their history, and that might be a fair judgment to make. So not long before this prophet spoke, the mighty Assyrian army destroyed one city after another, brutally killing people. And we know that not long after this book was written, the Babylonians would attack Jerusalem 3 times, taking the leaders and skilled citizens into exile and destroying the city and the temple. All that to say, violence is all around. Habakkuk has plenty to lament on behalf of his people. And his lament joins laments from all around the world, all through time, in which people have found the words to tell the truth about the situations of violence and injustice in their lives, resisting whatever is threatening their well-being and happiness. I'm betting you don't have to think too hard to find examples of people in your life that have been lamenting, especially about justice, in this last week. And I want to pause at this part of the story because lament is important, even vital. The Bible is full of lament, the people of God telling the truth about the brutal reality before them. When we talk about being people of faith, The call is not to bury our heads in the sand and pretend like nothing is wrong. When we talk about being people of faith, the call is not to be filled with unicorns and rainbows and happiness forever and ever all the time. We, as people of faith, are called to have our eyes wide open. We can name the injustice that we see around us. We can name the tragedies that we as humans inflict upon one another. We can name the sorrow and anger and hurt that we feel within ourselves. Habakkuk did not soften the blow. He did not look on the bright side and wash over the difficulties. He speaks the truth about the emptiness and hopelessness around. He speaks to his despair. He even speaks to his feelings of abandonment, saying to God, "How long shall I cry for help, and you will not listen?" And in this, we learn something absolutely amazing. God meets us in our suffering. Because here is where the story turns. Because suffering and lament, while necessary and honest and vital, suffering and lament are not the whole story. And this is the hinge, this is the crux of it all. Then the Lord answered me and said, "Write a vision. Make it plain on tablets so that a runner may read it. For there is still a vision for the appointed time. It speaks of the end and does not lie. If it seems to tarry, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay." God answers. And though wait, be patient, isn't always the answer we want to hear, God says decisively that suffering is not the end. For there is still a vision. It will surely come. There is hope. There is redemption. There is more than this. There is good on the way. There is still a vision. And that vision is to be made plain on tablets so that a runner may read it. Now, I'm not quite sure what this means. I don't know if it means that someone is to run around holding the tablet, proclaiming the vision, or if it means that someone running by would be able to read it clearly. But either way, I think what it's trying to say is that this vision is pretty simple. Our hope is clear. As clear, maybe, as two promises. Do not be afraid. I am with you. Certainly, a runner could read that off the tablet as she ran. Certainly, one running by could see that on a sign. But could it be that simple? Can we hold on to our hope? Can we see the world through that lens, put on our hope goggles, and let the world be colored by those simple words? Can we carry them around? Can we make them plain, writing them for all to see? Can we live by faith, as the prophet says, living our lives holding fast to the truth of this simple vision? And that's where this goes from being a nice Bible story to a difficult sermon. Because while it's simple, it's not easy. Because while hope gives us a future, it does not take away the truth of our present circumstances. We cannot ignore our present moment. We cannot stop telling the truth about what is before us. And it's into this paradox that we live in Advent. Well, we live it all the time, if I'm going to be honest, but especially in Advent. Think about it. The days keep getting shorter and shorter. The world keeps getting darker and darker. News and politics and global health and climate change and family relationships and holiday stress and everything seems to be piling up. But we know and we believe and we trust that there is still a vision, that all is not lost, that we have hope. And this is the promise of Advent, light coming in the darkness, peace on earth, goodwill to all. This is a practice that we desperately need. It's a practice of faith. And there's one story that puts this all together for me, and it's a bit of an extreme example, you might think, but it speaks beautifully to the faith of living in the middle of the promise. It comes from Elie Wiesel, and he tells this story in the preface to his book, The Trial of God. And it's a story about telling the truth and holding on to hope in faith. So Elie Wiesel was 14 when he was imprisoned in a Nazi camp, and in his bunk were 3 rabbis that were Talmud scholars, and they had large parts of the Bible memorized. And so together they continued to study the Jewish scriptures as they were imprisoned. And they kept coming up against some difficulty because, rightfully so, I would say, they were frustrated with God. They went so far as to say that they felt that God was guilty of crimes against humanity and murdering God's own innocent children. So they decided to put God on trial. They got a couple of men from the bunk to join them, and who was going to be the prosecutor? Who wants to prosecute God as you're there? And the defendant, who's going to defend God, speak on God's behalf? And the 3 rabbis, these scholars, decided that they would be the judges. So this went on a couple of nights, arguments back and forth, for and against, people speaking as witnesses. After all the closing arguments, everything that everyone had needed said, the 3 rabbis withdrew. And they deliberated and discussed everything they had seen and heard. And of course, everyone in the bunk is just, can hardly breathe. It's so tense. What can they say? What will they say? And the rabbis come back, and they say, "We have reached a unanimous decision, and we find God to be guilty of crimes against humanity, guilty of the murder of innocent men and women and children." And the silence. And nobody knew what to say. What on earth is there to say in a moment like that? And the silence was held until one of the rabbis leaned his head out the window and looked up at the stars and came back inside, and he said, "It's time to say our evening prayers." The book Habakkuk was actually banned by the Nazis because it spoke so clearly to hope. Habakkuk writes that the righteous live by their faith. This is not a moral imperative, as we often hear, but a true statement about people in relationship with God. It is about a truth about the place where we live, that rich and full moment that holds both now and then. In this story, we see all the pieces of faith: lament, promise, and living with hope. Habakkuk shows us that there are low moments. Tell the truth about them. Call it like you see it. They are not signs that God has abandoned us, though it may feel like it. Rather, they are the very places where God joins us. Our sufferings are holy, and they matter to God, and they matter to us. Do not be afraid to tell the truth about your reality. Habakkuk also shows us that God answers us. I wish I could tell you how exactly, but in whatever way, we are reminded and encouraged that there is still a vision. Make it plain, keep it before you, hold firmly to your hope, because God says, I am with you. And lastly, Habakkuk shows us that while it's simple, it's not easy. The righteous, the people of God, all of us live by faith. Faith, that uncomfortable, uneasy understanding that we live between now and then. We let our world be colored by hope, but not shut out by it. We say our evening prayers after declaring our despair. We wait and we hope. We lament and we proclaim. And this is what it is to be people of God, to be people of faith. May we be such people. People that sit between now and not yet. People who sit in the darkness and trust in the light. People who sit in conflict and trust in peace. People who sit in despair and trust in hope. Do not be afraid. I am with you. May this be our practice. Amen.